Greetings, it's Iain from RTO here. Welcome to a Monday morning where we've actually got a little bit of sun. It's the first time we've seen the sun in days. It's quite a nice autumn morning. Anyway, today we have got part 4 of the Frank Zappa story, and we're going to have a look at Frank Zappa's albums from the 1980s. And this is really the last decade that Frank put out stuff, because he sadly passed away in the 90s and he only released one album in the 90s, which we'll talk about next week, and the rest of them are posthumous. So 10 albums during the 80s. There's some good ones and there's some not so good ones. Bit of a mixed decade for me, but there are some good albums in the 80s. So coming in at number 10, released in 1986, is Jazz from Hell. It's an instrumental album where selections were all composed by Frank Zappa. So on here, he plays lead guitar, synclavier, keyboards and production, and then there's other people that play on it on Saint Etienne. You've got Stevie Vai on guitar, Ray White on guitar, Tony Mars and Bobby Martin on keyboards, Scott Thunes on bass, Chad Wackerman on drums, and Ed Mann on percussion. Okay, the first track is called Night School. It's all about the percussion, this. It sounds like he's clicking stuff, and there's a bit of piano and drum in it. It's not too bad. The Beltway Bandits. This is a bit obscure, and it's that sort of jazz that I'm not keen on. 15 tunes being played by 15 musicians. It's all over the place. Didn't like it at all. While You Were at Art, Part 2. There's lots of vibraphone in, which I don't mind, but again, there's too much else in the background going on. It is a bit confusing. Jazz from Hell is, again, very hard to comprehend. It's just 4 tunes doing their own thing. Yes. Then we've got G-Spot Tornado. It's okay. It's a bit more listenable. Then we've got Damp Ankles. Again, it's okay. At least you can pick out bits on this one. Then we've got the best track on here, Saint Etienne. There's some really nice guitar on this. It's a proper sort of sound, jazzy sound. I don't mind that. And then Massa Gigolo Galore. It's just a noise. It doesn't really do anything from me. Now this album reminds me of what my granddad called jazz. 15 musicians all playing different tunes. They're on their own, a different planet. I didn't really like this album. There's a couple of good tracks, so I'm going to give this an RTA ranking of 2 out of 10. Okay then, coming in at number 9, we've got a series of 3 albums that came out in 1981. Shut Up Your Guitar. So there's 3 albums, and they consist of solely electronic guitar instrumentals and improvised solos when playing live. So the first one at number 9 is the third one, which is The Return of the Sun of Shut Up Your Guitar. They've got Beat With Your Fist, which was recorded at the Palladium in 1980. It's a very short track. It's got some nice bass and drum on it and a nice bit of guitar. The Return of the Son of Shut Up and Play Your Guitar, Inca Roads. Guys, this is just a solo. You've got Pinocchio's Furniture, which is the solo from Chunga's Revenge. Yeah, it's alright. Why Johnny Can't Read, Pound for a Brown. Yeah, so just little solo tracks. Then we got Stucco Homes. It's alright. It's just 8 minutes of walk going on. And then Canard de Jour. It's alright. It's okay. The guitar solos are brilliant, but I don't want a whole album of guitar solos. Thank you very much. So I'm going to give that an RTO ranking of 5 out of 10. Okay, at number 8 is the first of this series, Shut Up and Play Your Guitar. You've got 5/5 Conehead, Hog Heaven, which is from Easy Meat, Shut Up and Play Guitar from Inca Roads, While You Were Out, Treacherous Cretins and Hey Duty, Soup and Old Clothes. This one's a little bit better, there's a little bit more to it, but it's still not the best. So I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 6 out of 10, purely on the guitar solos themselves. They're pretty good. And then the number 7 is the Shut Up and Play Your Guitar Some More. So we've got variations on the Carlos Santana Secret chord progression, City of Tiny Lights. It's okay. Gee, I Like Your Pants, another good solo. Car Knives, Ship Ahoy from Suitors of Lords, that's the best one on there. The Deathless Horsey, Shut Up and Play Your Guitar More, and Pink Napkins and Black Napkins. I think this is the best of the 3 because it's got a bit more jazzy, there's a bit more to it. I don't mind, out of the 3 I would listen to this one more. So I'm going to give this one an RTO ranking of 6.5. Okay, coming in at number 6 is an album from 1985, and it's Frank Zappa Meets the Mothers of Provention. The album was originally released as 2 slightly different versions. This is the UK version, and playing on here we've got Frank Zappa doing vocals, guitars and synclaver, Johnny Watson on guitars, Ray Wright vocals and guitars, Bobby Martin vocals and keyboards, Stevie Vai on guitars, Tommy Mars on keyboards, Scott Thunes bass, Chad Wackerman on the bass, Ed Mann on percussion, and we've got Frank's children, Moon Zappa and Dweezil, doing vocals. First track on this one is called We're Turning Again. My favourite track on here, I love all the xylophone sounds on it, it's quirky and it's a good track. Alien Orifice, I love the bass line on this, it's terrific. Scott Thunes, very, very good. Really drives the song along. Yo Cats, it's got some lovely keyboards, sound like an old-fashioned organ on it, fantastic. What's New in Baltimore, my second favourite guitar on this. It's got a really good guitar solo from Mr. Zappa, and he was a great guitarist. Really good track. And then we have I Don't Even Care, nice funky track, got a funky bass to it, excellent. One man, one vote. The keyboard is really groovy and the drums are okay, but the rest of it is weird as you like. Well, it wouldn't be a Frank Zappa track without some weirdness. But HR 2911 is the worst track, it's just loads of noises. Little Beige Sambo, bit of a free-for-all, it's quirky, it's not too bad. And Aerobotics in Bondage, strange, percussion, a bit disjointed. Definitely a mixed bag here. It's got some really good stuff on it and some stuff that is totally bonkers. But I shall give it an RTO ranking of 6.6. Okay, then coming in at number 5 from 1982, we have Ship Arriving Too Late to Save a Drowning Witch. So we've got Frank Zappa on lead guitar and vocals, Stevie Vai on guitar, Ray Wright rhythm guitars, Tony Mars keyboards, Bobby Martin keyboards and saxophone, Ed Mann percussion. Scott Thunes does the bass on Drowning Witch and a couple of more. Arthur Barrow plays on there as well and bass, and so does Patrick Hearn. Chad Wackerman on the drums, Ray Estrada on falsetto vocals, Ike Wilt vocals, Bob Harris does some vocals, Lisa Popel on vocals on Teenage Prostitute, and Moon Zappa on Valley Girl. So the first track is called Not Now. Quirky track, some funky guitars, very 80s sounding, but it's pretty good. Then my favourite track on here is Valley Girl, some great vocals, some Moon, weird but wonderful and an excellent track. I Come From Nowhere, this one isn't too bad, it's got a little bit of a weird bit towards the beginning, but it settled down and there's some great drumming and bass on this, fantastic little track. Then we got Drowning Witch. Guitar work on this from Frank is superb. I think he's very improv, made it up as he went along. I love the change of tempos on this. Envelopes, really good. Keyboards are a little bit irritating though. And Teenage Prostitute is a continuation of Envelopes, really. Although the tracks do sound the same in place, it's got some ingenious pieces on it, and I do admit I do like this. So I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 6.8. Okay, coming at number 4, an album from 1984, and it's called Francesco Zappa, and it features synthesizer arrangements of chamber music by Italian composer Francesco Zappa, who composed these little ditties between 1763 and 1788. And it's performed by the barking punk called Digital Gratification Consort, which is Frank Zappa. So these are all just little bits of Francesco Zappa. We've got Opus 1, the first movement. You know these pieces of music, and it's lovely how Frank has done the whole. I'm not going to go through every track because it's just going to be talking about the sound, but they're all really well done and sound great as synthesized. So you've got Opus 1, the first movement, Opus 1, the second movement, Opus 1, the number 2, the first movement, Opus 1, number 2, second movement, Opus 1, number 3, first movement, Opus 1, number 3, second movement, and then Opus 1, number 4, first movement. Some lovely voice pieces on that. Opus 1, the second movement, Opus 5, number second movement. It's a favourite piece, and everyone knows Opus number 5, second movement. You'll know it straight away. Then you've got Opus 1, number 6, first movement, another track that everyone knows. And Opus 6, second movement, I think it's the most recognisable. Everyone, if you listen to that, you go, yep, that is, I recognise that. Opus 4, number 1, first. It's a grandeur played on in an orchestra, but he's done it with the keyboards. It works. There's a lot of on Opus number 1. There's lots of bass. Second movement, lots of basses, and then number 2, second movement of Opus 4. Second favourite piece got harpsichord, which is really good. And then Opus 4, number 3, second movement. Opus 4, first movement. I think this is a really nice album. I really like playing this, and I'm going to give it an RTO ranking of 7 out of 10. Okay, coming in at number 3 from 1983, we have the Man From Utopia. Playing on here is Stevie Vai, Frank Zappa on guitars and synthesizers. There's on the credits he goes impossible guitar parts from Stevie Vai. Ray White, Roy Estrada, Bob Harris, Ike Willis doing the vocals, Bob Harris as the voice soprano, Bobby Martin on keyboards and sax as ever, Tommy Mars, Arthur Barrell on keyboards and bass, Ed Mann on percussion, Scott Thunes did a bit of bass, Jay Anderson string bass, Chad Wackerman as ever on the drums, Billy Carluta on drums, Craig Twister Stewart harmonica, Dick Fergie mandolin, and Marty Crystal on the saxophone. So the first track is called Cocaine Decisions. Very strange lyrics, of course, but the self is great. It's got a groovy harmonica piece on it. It's a good tempo. I do like that track. The Dangerous Kitchen. The vocals on here are just bizarre and hilarious, and I love it. Tink Walks Amok. Tink Walks Amok. A little great groovy bass line. The radio is broken. A typical Frank track with weird lyrics. Not a favourite of mine, I'm afraid. And then we got Moggio. Another weirdness, but it has got an excellent guitar solo on it. The Man From Utopia meets Mary Lou. Apart from being strange, it's got it's got an actually catchy tune to go with it. Stick Together, my favourite track on here. It's got a catchy tune, some great backing vocals, and a little bit of oddments. Track called Sex. There's lots of 80s production on it. The drums are a bit funny. The Jazz Discharge party hats. It's alright. And then we've got We're Not Alone, one of my favourite tracks. It's got some lovely vibraphone and saxophone and drumming. It's a great little instrumental. It's a very strange album, but for some reason I really like it. So I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 7.2. Okay, coming in at number 2, from 1984, Them or Us. Got Frank Zappa guitars and vocals, Ray White guitars and vocals, Stevie Vai on guitar, Weasel Zappa guitar, Tommy Mars on the keyboard, Bobby Martin keyboards and saxophones, George Duke on piano, and Brad Cole on piano. First track on here is The Closer You Are. It's a 50s sort of doo-wop song. It's really good. I do like that. In France, one of my favourite tracks by Frank Zappa. In France. I love the lyric delivery. It's a fantastic little track. It was one of my mates' favourite tracks by Frank as well. Yeah, Honza, very good track, some nice riffs in this, great rock bass, excellent. Charlene, this is a better version of Charlene's, and there's loads of versions on the Frank Zappas, but this is the best one. I like the guitar work on this one. Sinister Footwear. It's very disjointed, but what brings it together is the guitar solo. I'm not quite sure who does it. I don't know if it's Stevie Vai or Frank, but it's absolutely brilliant. Truck Driver Divorce, some great guitar work. There's lots of little licks on that. Excellent. Then we got Stevie Spanking. This is a double album, of course. I forgot to mention that. It's got some great riffs. One of my favourite tracks on the album. Baby Take Your Teeth Out. It's a short little track with some nice vibraphone on it and with a nice little bit of vocal. Marquis Sun's Chicken. Interesting track. Bit frenetic drumming, keeps it well together. Planet of My Dreams, nice piano piece on there, nice vocal as well. Be in My Video, the vocals and some of that reminds me of what 10cc used to do. Them or Us, not a big fan of this, but it has got an excellent guitar solo on it. Frogs with Dirty Little Lips, bizarre track, but so much fun. Then he does a great cover of the Allman Brothers Whipping Post. Brilliant. A great cover of it. Once again, we have one of them double albums that hasn't got hardly any filler on it. There's a couple of tracks that are a bit off, but it's pretty good. So I'm going to give it an RTO ranking of 7.3. But my number one album for the 80s from Mr. Frank Zappa is another double album from 1981. It's actually his 34th album, and it's called You Are What You Is. And it consists of 3 musical suites with encompass pop and doo-wop and jazz and hard rock and reggae, souls and blues. It's everything on this. So we got Frank Zappa on lead and vocals, guitar and vocals, Ike Willis, Ray Wright, vocals, Bob Harris, voice soprano and trumpet. Stevie Vai plays the Fender Stratocaster. And we've got Tommy Mars on keyboards and Arthur Barrett on bass. So the first track is called Teenage Wind. It's a nice little track. It's about a kid going to a Grateful Dead concert. I love the story behind this, and I love the bass line. Harder Than Your Husband. Now this is a country track, and it's quite good. It's a nice little tune, nice vocal as well. Then we go for a proper little rocker called Doreen. It's one of my favourite tracks on the album, so heavy. Goblin Girl, another great little rocker. Great little dirty riffs. Excellent. Then the theme from the third movement of Sinister Footwear. I think this is improv. It's pretty good. Society Pages. Some lovely quirky little keyboards on it, and the sound effects are really bizarre. I'm a Beautiful Guy. And it's quite an interesting track with some nice sequences in it. It's a bit bizarre. Beauty Knows No Pain. Love the harmonies in this. It's got a poppy photo with a heavy riff. Charlie's Enormous Mouth, a very quirky track, some lovely harming vocals on that. Any Downers, I love the start of this with that keyboard, just another great vocal, love that. Conehead, weird and wonderful lyrics, but a nice song. The title track, You Are What You Is, I like the soft combination of rock and funk and some great drumming on that. Mud Club, we're going to have a bit of reggae now, it's got that real reggae beat to it, I do like that track. The Meek Shall Inherit Nothing, it's dominated by a great keyboard line and some fantastic guitar work. Dumb All Over, lots going on here, it's probably one of them tracks I don't really like. Heavenly Bank Account, it's okay, got some nice vocals and a little nice keyboard in it. Suicide Chump, good little rocker, one of the best on the album. Jumbo, Go Away, totally bizarre, well put together though. It's really good, even though it's bizarre. Then we got my favourite track on it, If Only She Woulda. It's very Carlos Santana, it's got a Latino sort of drift to it. It's a brilliant track, one of the best of the 80s. And then Drafted Again, another weird track but with a fantastic guitar solo. It's a very good double album with lots of diversity on it, from jazz, blues to electronic. Couple of filler tracks on it, but it's a good solid double album. As some of the harmonies remind me of 10cc as well, but I really like this album. So I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 7.5. So there we go. Probably, as I said at the beginning, probably the last really good decade. Because after that, the 90s, he died. Was it 93, something like that. So you've got one that was done in his lifetime and the rest of them are posthumous. And that's where it started going a little bit wrong for me, because it shouldn't have even been put out, but that's for another day. Okay, that's all for this one, so part number 5 next week. Okay, coming up next is A Perfect Side. I've gone for a real classics American sort of punk post-punk. Well, is it punk? It's new wave. It was a little bit different, and it's of course Horses by Patti Smith, produced by John Cale, no less. So that's what's coming up next. Bye for now.